punctual.
Yeah.
So as you all know, today we have the pleasure of welcoming Serena to this series of talks. And since my dear colleague Liana has been working very, very hard last month, June is my month, so I'm going to be the one interviewing our guests. And Serena, she's the first one of this series for this month. Serena was literally, I think, the first person that I met when I landed in Ibiza in January. Walked into the office and I had Serena there start giving me the tips of where I had landed. So we have since then developed, of course, a professional relationship, but also a friendship. And she's definitely the one that has become my personal advisor on all matters of what Ibiza is like. I joined here the Pachal group since January, and Serena has been on the island for a long time, and she's definitely one of the most well-known and respected figure on the island. So I think it would be great, maybe Serena, if you don't mind, to start, telling a little bit how you actually landed for the first time. I think Ibiza is one of these places that everybody has in the radar and everybody wants to be once. But I guess you had, a first trip that I'm sure at the beginning was not maybe meant to be what has actually resulted over the last years. So if you want to maybe just walk us through a little bit of the memories of when you first arrived in Ibiza and why did you come to Ibiza first?
I think
Serena?
we lost Serena because I cannot see her right now.
I think she had an issue.
I think, yeah, because I cannot see her on the screen. Hi, Charilyn. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi.
Just starting.
Hi guys, how are you?
Hi.
So,
How are you? Let's see what happened with Serena.
Well, she just mentioned the weather was so nice. She probably has gone out.
yes, exactly. She thought, let's not do interview. Let's go for a little bit of sun and a walk.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Okay, now she's messaging me.
Well, in the meantime, she's messaging, okay, because Massimo, and obviously, guys, I want to introduce you to our friend, my very good friend, Sherilyn Amy. She actually owns an amazing, gorgeous, beautiful hotel in Peninsula Valdez, called Oceano Patagonia. And she's done the most amazing work. So she's going to be one of the persons that we will be interviewing in the future, definitely, because her story is unbelievable. So it's one of the persons that I want you, Massimo, to meet, my Sherilyn, because obviously the whole connection with hotels and everything.
Thank you.
We met a few months ago.
Yes, yeah, at the balcony, at the club.
Yeah.
At the club, the life prior to the pandemic.
Exactly.
Yes.
When we could party, right? So
yeah, before this incredible Black Swan event. Incredible.
Exactly. But we will get together soon, I'm sure. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Hey, Linda. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always fantastic to have you with us.
Hi, yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Oh,
Hi.
great.
I think Serena is having some trouble. She just texted me that she's trying.
Oh, here is. I just saw her
to
coming.
Restart, relaunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was relaunching. Serena, you back?
I'm back. I can't believe it.
The entire audience said, since she said that the weather is nice in London, she just decided to drop the interview and walk out and enjoy the weather.
This is like something that would happen in Ibiza. I'm so happy.
Excellent. Welcome back. Welcome back. So I don't know if you...
The ones that just arrived, Serena is in London right now. She's supposed to be in Ibiza, but they changed her flight, so she's in London right now. She will be tomorrow join Massimo in Ibiza. So, yeah, carry on, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know, Serena, if you managed to hear my question, but basically it was just if you want to start by telling us how it was and why the first time in Ibiza when you first arrived.
So the first time I went to Ibiza was 1997. And I had just graduated from Bristol University, where I read Hispanic studies because I'd fallen in love with South America when I was 15 because of a Peruvian best friend. So I decided to read Hispanic studies, and people telling me to go to Ibiza. And in the 90s, there was this documentary on Ibiza on the BBC, which only portrayed San Antonio. So I didn't want to go. But then another group of my friends were like, you've got to go to Ibiza. It's the nearest thing in terms of spirit compared to South America. You'd love it. You've got to go. So finally, I went in 97 with some university friends, and we drove inland. And the villa we were checking into, we couldn't check in till Saturday, and we arrived on Friday night. And the villa was going to cost us £6 per person per night each, because it was still peseta.
Right.
And so we camped on Friday night in this place called Moon Beach, which is so beautiful. And I woke up on Saturday morning and I was like, oh my God, this is utter paradise, because where we camped was the north of the island, super untouched. I'll take you, Massimo, it's so beautiful.
Need to go. Yeah.
And that was the first trip, and came for 10 days. And where we rented the house was the north of the island, Juan. We didn't go to one club. We didn't go to Ibiza town. We stayed in the north the whole time. And our favorite beach bar, which I'm telling South American friends on this call, was run by Uruguayans in a place called Aca. And it was literally paradise. It was so beautiful. And I fell in love with Ibiza.
Sure, I'm sure. And everybody seems to still say that Ibiza used to be, so different. The essence of Ibiza, I think you just touch about it right now. But what was really different from what is the Ibiza that we know today?
There is still so much of what there was then, and that I always try to tell everyone. Basically then, which was 25 years ago, the proper hippie community was way bigger because Ibiza was so much cheaper. And you definitely got that hippie community that would Goa or Bali in the winter. They would buy all their fabrics, clothes, they would make it in Bali or Goa, and then they'd come to Ibiza for the summer and they'd sell it, and they would live for the whole year of what they made in Ibiza the 4 or 5 months.
Right.
And that bohemian spirit is the foundation for Ibiza is now. And yes, there's not so many hippies, but there's still a lot. There's still the hippie markets. There's still the community in the north. There's still that bohemian crowd who created iconic restaurants like La Paloma. You just need to know where to look. But it's still there. You can find it for sure. Sure.
I think what's interesting is really that once you come to Ibiza, you understand that there is certain people that made Ibiza. It's maybe due to the fact that it's relatively, at the end of the day, it's an island, so it's relatively small. But the influence of certain people, I think, is really what has made Ibiza. Can you maybe touch, because I know that you know some of those characters. Maybe you can just share with us some anecdotes about this very, very interesting people,
Well, I think there's what is still there today about Ibiza is this melting pot of different characters, and it's extremely cosmopolitan, it's international. And when I moved to Ibiza in 2001, and I was actually cooking, even though I'm not a chef, but my background is F&B, I used to be so surprised that the little shops on the middle of the road would be selling mirin and soy and incredibly kind of multicultural ingredients on the side of the road. And those groups still exist today as they did then. So there was the bohemian crowd that I've just described that could be anything. They could be Israeli, they could be Italian, they could be French, they could be any different nationality, but the hippies kind of follow Osho and that whole kind of scene. They're still there today. Those were the characters who I've already mentioned, who created like La Paloma, for example. Or you get the Spanish crowd, and obviously the most iconic of the Spanish crowd, which is obviously close to Massimo, was Ricardo Urgel, who was a playboy from Barcelona who came to Ibiza and he created. So you have that Spanish crowd, the kind of playboy, quite glamorous. You have the international super bohemian hippie crowd. You also have the French, who brought a lot of style. You also had, which is incredibly important, kind of stepping stones of how Ibiza and where Ibiza started. Ibiza really welcomed the gay community. And don't forget, like in the 60s, just after Franco, this was like an island of love, no judgment. And it's similar to Mykonos, which is the same. From the gay community brings normally the fashion community, which then brings the trendy community, which then brings the bankers who want to be cool, and then brings the celebrities. And you can see it in both islands. The similarities between Ibiza and Mykonos have the same trajectory. And all these amazing characters, a lot of them are still here today. And the people who came kind of like in the 60s, 70s when they were young, they're now in their 70s, 80s, and you still see them, you know, and it's amazing. And to see that, and like, for example, one of the iconic restaurants was called Las Dos Lunas, and that was the restaurant with the kind of international community, the kind of playboys, whatever. That restaurant still exists.
Impressive.
And that whole kind of crowd that defined Ibiza in the 70s and the 80s, you can see them because you can see them celebrating and being like they were on a night hosted by Basha every August by Carlos Martorell. So all the generations are still there. All the different groups are still in Ibiza, which you must have, Massimo. It's very cosmopolitan for such a small island.
It is. I'm actually very, very often, you know, you go to restaurants and you recognize right away, actually, particularly during this last period where we were in literal lockdown, you know, but you say, how come there are so many foreigners? Those foreigners are actually living here, you know, they are not tourists coming for the season. And you go to the supermarket, you on your daily life, you know, it's actually almost hard to find, you know, the Spaniards, you know. I think you know, you have a feeling that there is more, you know, foreigner than local people. And Serena, when you just touched base, you said, you know, you came back. So the first trip was really like, you know, a sort of escape, but then you came back to work, right? You have an opportunity from the UK. They called you, or how did that happen?
So between 97 and 2001, I came 2 more times on holiday. Then in England in 99, I set up England's first certified organic restaurant. So as a result, it was too ahead of its time. It didn't make any money. And that was actually the best business learning I ever have, when a business doesn't work, because it was like the best experience ever. So meantime, I had become friends with a girl who said to me, when I closed the organic restaurant, like, what are you going to do now? And I was like, I have no idea. And, you know, it was obviously a stressful experience. And she was like, why don't you come and spend the summer in Ibiza? You love Ibiza. Why don't you spend the summer? And I was like, that's a dream, but what would I do? I need to work.
You need to work,
and she was like, oh, well, I've got 3 restaurants and I've got 3 villas, and I would like them to have delicious food every lunch, which you could cook because your background's in restaurants. And I was like, yeah, I'm a chef. And she was like, yeah, but you're a foodie. I've tried your food. You can cook. And she was like, it's just Mediterranean lunch. You can do it. And I thought, okay, does know my food. I've cooked for her before. And she's paying me to be in Ibiza. I've had this super stressful 2 years. Like, why not? What's the worst that can happen? Like I'll just go home, you know? And so that was May 2001. And that girl was Jade Jagger, Mick Jagger's daughter. So obviously the crowd coming through these houses were like amazing characters.
Yeah.
And because I was in the kitchen, they'd say to me, where's your favorite restaurant? Can you help me get a table at Pasha? Could you like to take a boat to Formentera? Then they realized that I spoke Spanish and they were like, oh, I crashed my, can you translate? And that's how it began. That's why it's called Delicious. My background has always been food, but then I was cooking here, and Sorted, which was sorting and anything and everything out.
Right. That's how it happened. It's a very, I mean, you had told me, but I think it's a beautiful story to share. Sometimes,
yeah.
As you said, you know, most probably if you wouldn't have been brave enough when somebody asked you to become a chef when you're actually not a chef, it wouldn't have happened, you know. And it's just amazing how, from an opportunity like that one, that of course you embrace, and I'm sure you did your very best, something else came out of it, right? Because then really you created your own company. But just before talking about your company, I think, Serena, it's interesting because I think there's a myth about British living in Spain, you know. How did you manage that at the beginning, and now you still manage today, you know, to preserve, you know, your essence as a British person, but have been, you know, adopted, because you're very much, and I can tell to the audience, because I know you, very much adopted by the local community. How have you learned to all happen, you know, through the period?
So at the beginning, so I saw this opportunity. It's like you've just said. I was cooking. I saw it was kind of at the stage in the Ibiza trajectory when the fashion crowd were discovering Ibiza, and all these people wanted to come to Ibiza, but they did need hand holding, because then majority of the restaurants were Spanish owned. Way then were dirt tracks everywhere, and more than anything they needed a reassuring voice at the end of the phone, but they also needed someone who would answer phone calls who was efficient and so I basically brought kind of the kind of British standards of professionalism to Spain in early 2000, because in early 2000 everyone took a siesta, everyone. So you wouldn't hear from anyone for at least 3 hours. Everything was mañana. There was like no concept of an answer that same day. And in terms of the clients, like, still one of my favorite seafood restaurants is Estorrent, and then the best seafood restaurant on the island. But the road wasn't paved, and the road was super dangerous. It was like this hairpin bend down this dirt track with potholes. So the clients would be on the phone going, where am I going? Is this safe? And I'd be like, carry on another 100 meters.
You're doing well.
It's worth it. And now that restaurant is signed off the main road, it's paved, and now you have to book a week in advance to get the table. So I think it was also my Spanish really helped. The fact that I spoke Spanish then, 20 years ago, you know, you can joke, you can flirt, you can do whatever it takes to make it happen, you know? So Yeah, so maybe the car hire for sure, because this is another example. The car hire company I still use today, and the father, who's actually kind of retired now of the business, still calls me La Cocinera. So if he answers, he goes La Cocinera. So funny. But he was so manana. I'd be able to kind of play the kind of damsel in distress in Spanish and go, ay, por favor, like, you know what I mean? So the Spanish for sure is fundamental, and it's more than, but definitely now, it brings a respect from the locals that you speak Spanish and speak it well, and then I think it was that, like I said, okay, somebody's called me, I'm going to get back to them by the end of the day. But also in those days, I'd have to stop at an internet cafe. Like, I would be driving across the island to stop in an internet cafe to get emails, because sometimes I'd be out with clients for how many times, because before Blackberries, sure. I was the first person I knew out of anyone to get a Blackberry. So it was just getting things done. Like, let's get this done now as soon as possible, as efficiently as possible. But bringing the best of the Ibiza to the clients, and just like today, assessing the clients where they would, like, what experience do they want to have? Do they want to go to the north, which is more low key? Do they want to go south, which is more luxury? Managing the client's expectation, but definitely then was holding their hands, whereas now it's more about accessibility, getting them the elusive table.
Sure. I think it's such an interesting point, because I had myself the opportunity to live in different islands in the world, and I think there's always a common denominator. Living in an island, you are a foreigner, and they normally make you feel it, and they are sure that you're not really part of the original tribe. But as soon as you speak the language, or as soon as you try very hard to integrate, actually the entire relationship changes completely. And and I think that's so crucial, and I'm sure it was even more important at that time. But it's still, I think Serena and I, we have shared on several opportunities our views on certain ways of doing things, and we say, oh my God. But then we remember, okay, we are in Ibiza, and this is part of the charm and part of the secret of this place. And then, of course, maybe being trained differently and coming with a different background, then the efficiency is actually valued by everybody. People say, okay, actually, they're a foreigner, but, they're worthwhile dealing with, which is great. And how, when did you really decided to create your company as such? Because as you said, that was at the beginning, was more people coming into the kitchen and asking. When did you really feel that there was a business behind that, and what actually triggered that decision?
It was literally the first summer. After the first summer, I said to Jade that I was going to come back next summer and I would freelance, and I would freelance. Do stuff for her, but that I would freelance for other clients cooking. But that second year, I got an actor who wanted a chef and a PA. So I was kind of cooking, but I was also making their reservations, was also doing the recommendations. I was sorting out changing flights for a lot of what the company now does today. And that second summer, I started to build the website, and my web designer was saying, what is this name? This name's ridiculous. Like, you can't call it, you don't mention concierge, you don't mention fixing, because concierge was a really new term then, or being a fixer, or being an organizer. Like, you don't mention VIP, like, and he kept saying, you can't call it this. And I was like, I am calling this. Like, this is my background, but it's also memorable and it's totally different. And so that second summer, I built the website, but the cooking was really good to do as well, because then even then you got 30 euros an hour, which is a lot when you're cooking certain meals. Like, it adds up. So my first employee was my sister, who came to help me, but I would still do, you know, special meals when you go from charging per hour to per head, you know, and that's how the event side came into the concierge side.
Right.
And basically, so that was 2002, and pretty much every year since then, the team has multiplied exponentially. So normally we're 17, which is 17 years from the business starting. Every year we take on another member of staff to satisfy the demand. Oh no, what's happening? Massimo? Massimo. Yes. Is Massimo there?
I think we lost Massimo. Oh, there is.
Oh, there he is.
This is my turn. As Serena has announced it, this is quite typical here.
Yeah.
So, sorry, I'm back.
Yay.
Okay. So I guess you sort of finish, and maybe just a few words on what the company is today in terms of size and in terms of the business that you're taking care of.
Sorry, so you cut out. So talk about the team and the size of the business.
Exactly. What is it now? You know.
Yeah. So obviously it's a seasonal business, and throughout the year we are 10, but then we grow to 17 for 7 months of the year, usually in a normal year.
Not this year. I thought I came to this and I destroyed everything, right?
Yeah, it's totally your fault. So the business has 3 revenue streams. One is villa rental, one is concierge, and one is events. So that it's one number for everything. Obviously, when people come to Ibiza, the first thing they need is accommodation. That will either be villa rental or it will be a hotel. And then from that, they will want concierge and all the concierge needs that you could want in a holiday in terms of flights, drivers, cars, restaurants, reservations, swimming teachers, beauticians, holistic, everything. And also we have a lot of clients who have second homes in Ibiza, and they might have needs slightly different. They might need an accountant or an interior designer or a doctor for any type of client. People relocating use us to find staff, to help with schools, to help with coaching for their kids. And then events, because Ibiza is a super popular destination for weddings and special birthdays. We focus on special birthdays. We don't want to do more than 5 luxury weddings a year. The reason for that is because there's a lot less emotion with special birthdays. Sure. When you're dealing with weddings, it's extremely personal, and we also don't want to lose the personal touch that we give. Sure. But also, you are marrying a lot of elements, and the mother-in-law or the mother, or who's paying, or the bride wants this and the groom doesn't want this. So we only do 5 years so that they have the magic touch. And what we're very known for in terms of our events is these fantastic parties, usually for a special birthday, ranging from 30th to 80th we've done. But I would say that the most we do are 40, 50, 60. And then the concierge blends super well with the events, because we offer complimentary concierge service to all the guests who come to the party, birthday, wedding. which means we can manage it better in terms of transport coordination where they are. And it also means that the client doesn't have to worry about a hairdresser for their guests or a babysitter or and obviously it also means that we're making money, because that's why we're all here, from all of the elements that we're supplying to their guests. And those are the three revenue streams. Ibiza is by far the business by far. And then we also cover Mallorca, Menorca, and Formentera. And Mallorca is very different from Ibiza. The spend across border is 25% less on everything. There's no nightclubs. It's a lot more discreet. Menorca even more so. And Formentera obviously complements Ibiza and is more of the kind of, it's becoming more of the kind of foodie, but again, a bohemian element Formentera. And again, there's no nightclubs there either. So it's a different holiday.
Definitely. So clearly, I think as everybody is appreciating, Serena is full on into the world of hospitality and guest services. And as I know the business well, what gets you up every day? Because it's not easy. I mean, you do have very demanding clients, people that are asking for sometimes some sort of mission impossible, because one goes out and sells that we can do everything, but sometimes there's limits to it. So what is really your driver on every day to keep on doing this? You're lucky, of course, and we talked about it, because it's a seasonal business. So there is a very, very long time of full dedication, and then very slow time, because trust me, I lived here now for the first winter. This winter has been particularly slow, but winter is a different story in Ibiza, But what is really the driver of all of this, Serena?
I think it's just striving to be the best always, and that's how it started. All those years ago, it was like, I can organize things for people and I can do them really well, because at that point there was no benchmark, right? And nowadays, of course, there's a benchmark. Every single person in Ibiza is a concierge, right? Everyone, the security, the cleaner, whoever is a concierge, right? They're not. Perhaps they can say they can get you a boat, but they're not. But on the other hand, we are in 2020, and I'm always striving just to be the best in so many different ways. It's not just at the service that the clients are receiving, it's in our social media, it's in our website, it's in how we communicate, it's in the welcome gifts that we give the clients when they arrive. We're never going to give them a case of rosé. We're going to give them luxury gifts from brands from all over the world, like an Aceline coffee book or a beauty range from here, so it's understanding the type of client that we're looking after and wanting their experience to be on the global level, which I know it is, because they tell us all the time. Like, they're like, why aren't you elsewhere? And that's incredibly satisfying. And that's another reason why I'm still here nearly 20 years later, is our clients are so fascinating. Like, nowadays you can Google everyone before they come, right? And you see what they do and the careers they've created, and they're just like, wow, this is phenomenal. This is, and not just the obvious kind of celebrity, a singer or an actress, but more the kind of Forbes list, like, whoa, like, wow, we're looking after these people. But also, for me, 100% is my team. And I literally love them. And my senior managers, all 4 of them, have been with me for over 10 years.
Wow, that's impressive.
So it's also, I have a really amazing life because they manage the departments. It means that I can go and network with the clients, or go to this restaurant to see the owner of that restaurant, but then we'll have 4 or 5 tables at that restaurant and be able to say hi to them. And it's not me anymore, you know, changing the reservation. I don't look after the clients personally, with a very few exceptions. But it's my it's my team coming to me, and they're all awesome. And me obviously managing the finances and the structure of it and marketing, but also, like I said, being able to network with these people and these clients, and just, I think what gets me up as well is, which is something that's so important, that you should always employ people who are more intelligent than you or smarter than you. And like, my team is so good, like it really inspires me. They're like, wow, like it's that. I think it's constantly striving. It's also learning. I find that it's amazing that at our age, you keep on learning through life, you know, in terms of what else is happening in the industry, what you can learning about human relationships. I mean, I just think I have the best job in the whole world. I mean, you know, because it's, of course, there's, oh, and that's another really important need in 2012, which sounds really obvious, but it was like, we want to look after less clients, spending more money. And already I have a team of 17, because concierge is so time consuming. To do a good job, you have to be in constant contact with them. But by having that business model, you know, they are the clients that can afford the top fees. They are going to be spending. So the teams can look after them super well. And we're not wasting our time with people. It's knowing your value. Sure. It's knowing your value, and it's knowing the value of the company and the experience they have. So,
but I think this is mainly, and I think you said it, and you're very modest, but I think it's also, you know, your capability to, you know, build relationship, because I mean, your clients not only value the services of your company, but they particularly value your presence and your advice and your knowledge, you know, which at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, in a business which is really people to people, and the face behind, you know, yeah. a service like your company, it's what really makes the difference.
Yeah.
It's kind of, Serena, for us to pick your ideas, because of course, since you're a specialist, I think it will be nice. And we see, and Serena and I discuss it, we think, you know, that in the future, and me being hotelier, I shouldn't say this, but we think that in the future, you know, people will go more and more for villa rentals, right? Because we believe that there is a series of benefits around villa rentals that are, unfortunately for hoteliers, but fortunately for the new consumer, you know, giving maybe a better answer, you know, to what is happening presently. And so maybe my first question is, you know, if you can tell us at the beginning, and maybe you put yourself on the other side, you know, of course you do it as a business, but what would you say that is a starting point, you know, if you decide to go on holiday and actually not going to a hotel, but to rent a villa, where would you start? Independently of the destination, you know, but just for people that maybe are not used to, because it's different, you know, it's definitely very different. Yeah. So where should one start?
So first of all, I definitely think in the generation in which we're living, I would research on Instagram, because I think that you can really get a feel of a villa company that's offering kind of lifestyle as well, and you can see it from the quality of their pictures, you can see it from their followers, because when you look at a website, yes, every website has a page of testimonials, or it should do, right? So if you're going to look at a website, you want to see the website with a telephone number with the national country code, not just a mobile. Sure. You want to look on a website that they have a VAT number, because often you come across one-pagers who've set up in Mykonos because everybody's going to Mykonos, but actually, you know, nowadays you do have to be careful.
Sure.
For a villa rental, sending 20,000 euros and the person has disappeared anywhere. I mean, Ibiza, Mykonos, Sardinia, anywhere. So if you're going to use a website, those are the fundamentals that you should look at before you even kind of engage. But also, you know, it's the type of person that I am and how I like to travel. I'll also be researching, like Condé Nast Traveler, to see who they recommend in that destination and go to the website. But nowadays, and I think it's so much easier to look on Instagram. It's so, look at what I'm doing, because it's so quick, you know? And so you, wherever you're going, and you can see the style, you can see what type of villas they're curating, you can see how many followers they've got, which you're never going to get on a website. And then perhaps once you've got to your 3 or 4, then you can go to the website because you want to see the big pictures, what villas they feature.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so then, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, and beside, because I guess when we think about villa rental, I think maybe some people are, you know, a little bit hesitant because of the service, you know, because villa rental basically means, okay, you're going to potentially get a super beautiful place, but what am I going to do when I land in Ibiza, first time I'm here, or when I land in wherever, you know? So what are the tips that you think are important to take into consideration, not only to be captured by the beautiful picture, which hopefully is there when you arrive?
Yeah. So once,
yeah.
Yes. But I think once you've got into that home page, you can see that the ones that you want to be booking through are going to obviously have the section on the villas as the predominant section, but then they're going to have either services or concierge service. And you will see that you can have extra maid service, that you can get a chef, or they're going to offer concierge as well, and they're going to organize your restaurant recommendations, your car hire. You know, there's a kind of services, I would say, is fridge filling in advance, extra cleaning, chefs, and then when it gets into an airport pickups, and then concierge is when they're organizing the whole experience. So that, again, you can see from websites. And also, when you are looking for villas, there are going to be some companies that you can see cover a lot of destinations, and they are set up usually using local partners. But like there's a very good company called Le Collectionniste, which is French origin, but they cover all around the world. So somebody like that has a very full concierge package, or you might want to use somebody who's locally based. But you can see straight away if they're going to offer the services and the hand holding that you want. If it's just villa based, that's pretty obvious from the website.
Right.
And then I think some tips in terms of when you're coming to the villa is you need to, the kind of like number one question that you always need to ask is, are there neighbors and how far away are they? Because, and if they can, if they'll give you a Google Map link, they usually won't give you one, but that needs to be the most important question, because often you're sent these absolutely beautiful photos, but of course it's just a view, right? You don't know
right. Yeah.
that there's a villa like here, or it's in an urbanization. And then the other question that I ask is, if it's marketing 5 or 6 bedroom, whatever, if it markets 6 bedrooms, you need to ask the question, what's wrong with the 6th bedroom? Right? Because always the last bedroom is either next to the kitchen, or it's a single bed, or, you know, so, and that's also a top tip. I think if, you know, obviously speak to people now, and people, the type of client, the company that you've identified, responsive, and you can have a conversation with them. But it's very important to ask the question, are they all, and ideally, and this sounds extraordinary, but can you see floor plans? Because a lot of companies don't offer floor plans. So if you can't, are they all double bedrooms? You know, are they all with lovely views and not like next to the garage?
Right.
And then obviously with the new normal, what is their COVID procedures? Because for in Spain, you can now get a stamp, you get an inspection, it's regional, so an inspector will come from me at the beginning of the season. They will tell you what you need to do. You used to be able to turn around your villa in terms of cleaning in 5 hours. Now it has to be overnight. Like, there's new things that have come in. So these are the questions that you need to be asking the agent. What are the staff going to wear in masks and gloves for the cleaners? And I think you can be adamant about that because of obviously what's happened.
Sure.
You need to know these terms, and it all needs to be written down. If you have a phone conversation with someone, it's got to be in writing.
Right.
And then my other top tip that I would definitely say, which is just a kind of something that I do, is that when you get to the villa, and if you do have people who are working in the villa for you, like a cleaner, or obviously my type of client is going to be having butlers and not me, but what I recommend to them and what I do when I do rent villas elsewhere around the world is to tip the staff when you get there, because then they love you. Exactly. So if you're going to give 100 euros at the end of the week, give them 100 euros when you arrive, and they'll be like,
right,
whatever you want. It's such a simple thing. And sure. I say it to all of our clients, like, it doesn't make any difference to you, but just if you do that, they're like, oh, this is a nice client. I'm going to go the mile.
Of course. And last question about villa rental. You know, I always feel that within villa rental, to really establish the value, I mean, is not only based on the physical aspect. You know, maybe in hotels is slightly different. You know, and there is always a sort of range. You know, 5-star, 4 stars, city hotel, resorts hotels.
Yeah.
What is the way to get the best deal? You know, because if you only really look at the physical, you know, elements and picture and size, is that really the only element that to look for the best deal? Because there is choice, of course, and there is more and more choice. You know? Maybe sometimes in certain location, because of the seasonality, you know, there's just that months that everybody wants to be there. But just before and after, 1,000 to 10, you know, so say like, wow, same villa, you know.
I mean, I think generally, just always ask, you know, like what if you're looking for a villa in July and August, right? Always ask. Normally people are traveling for 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Villas normally rent for 1 week. You're taking it for 2 weeks. What is the worst they can say? No, it's August. I will be booked. Sure. So what? Who cares? But if it's shoulder season, definitely. If you've used the same company elsewhere around the world, definitely. You are considering renting this summer after COVID, definitely.
Sure.
Always ask. You can't bring anything to them, but actually you could. You know, I could say I do that all the time when I go and stay in a hotel or a villa. I will post that I'm here on Instagram. Sure. You know, that also works, of course. Mm-hmm. So I just think to ask. You know,
best advice, as easy as that, not to be shy.
Yeah.
Excellent. Serena, maybe I think we are getting close to the end of our interview, but maybe one last thing, because I know that it's so important to you, and I think it's so much as a subject that is present, you know, in terms of the work that you're doing for the preservation of the Paris and your active role. You mentioned before Formentera. Funny enough, as soon as for the Pachá group to move to Formentera, and I was a bit in shock at the beginning. They said, no, thank you, don't come, because Pachá music is loud, so they don't want us there.
Yeah.
So we are working in making sure that they understand that there can be different forms, of course, of what the world Pachá entertainment is. But there is an element which is so unique to Formentera, which they have kept and they keep on working very hard, which is this initiatives about preservation, because at the end of the day, particularly here, but I think it's becoming an issue for the entire world, is nature that is the reason why we are here. So you can just share a little bit of what you have done and what you're presently doing in this field.
So, and I actually wanted to bring it up when you asked me the question about moving into Ibiza and working with the local environment. I wanted to bring it up then because in 2008, me and two friends founded the Ibiza Preservation Foundation, which also covers Formentera. And basically, in 2008, I'd already been operating for 7 years. I could see that tourism was going like that. I could also see that I was facilitating a certain type of clientele, but also an awareness of the island, because especially then, we got a lot of press globally because it was a new destination, it was an emerging kind of market, it was an interesting company. And so I was like, wow, all these tourists are coming. Ibiza is on the world map, and this is a tiny island which suffers intense tourism over very short months of the year. What can we do? And also, compared to Mallorca, even then, the recycling facilities weren't as good as Mallorca, certainly not as good as other countries. And there was no body for the preservation of the islands. And also, the government then was very pro-building. So it was like, one of the reasons why Ibiza is so loved, it is so beautiful, and people land and they cannot believe how unconstructed it is. There's vast areas where you just see a white house here and there. So there's nothing. So with these two other friends, very naively, but naivety sometimes is very good setting up a business or a charity, because you're just so enthusiastic. We thought that we could just send emails to our database, to our contacts, and people would give us money. And I also thought I can ask the business owners that I'm working with on the island to be on the committee. They wouldn't. The Ibizencans would not. They were like, you need to prove yourself. Like, who are you? I was, how old was I? Whatever, 35 or something. Like, and the guys that I found younger, who are these three English young founding this charity? Like, we need to watch and see. You need to prove yourself.
What you're doing, right? Yeah.
So none of them would put their names to the committee, and us sending emails asking for money then to raise money for the environment was so hard, because it's so broad. It's so, in a way, it's not now. Then it was not tangible, right? And it's easier to raise money for a charity for cancer or, child, of course.
Yeah.
And finding somebody to manage the fund for us, because normally an environmentalist is an activist and I'm a capitalist. Like how we need to kind of get these two together,
right?
for the benefit. So it took us a few years to find the right executive director, and we've had the same one now for 8 years, and she's amazing. Handles all of us on the steering committee who kind of approach it like a business. She manages all the different NGOs island who are asking for our support, and her knowledge is encyclopedic of environmental issues in Ibiza and Formentera. But
Right.
it was her brainchild, was in 2012, she came to us and she was like, the Spanish government had granted the rights to a Scottish oil company to prospect for oil off the coast between Ibiza and Valencia.
Mm-hmm.
And another company had already done it in the Canary Islands, and it went ahead. And I know we're running out of time, but if you oil prospect, it obviously threatens the quality of the water for tourism and also for fishing, and destroys sea life. So she got together all the stakeholders on the island who make money out of tourism. So Matutes, the kind of godfather of Ibiza, Pasha. So basically the NGOs and the business owners all sat in a round table capacity, put the money together, and we stopped the oil prospecting. And that was phenomenal.
Sure.
And that gained us the local respect. It was that. And now locals come to us and say, will you help with this? Somebody's trying to build this illegally, or what about this? I mean, so we have respect of the locals. We've also raised 1.6 million euros towards environmentally, and basically we are an incredibly respected body on the island, doing things for Ibiza. And actually the other point that I really wanted to make talking about this is that it's so much easier nowadays, because any newspaper you pick up around the world pre-COVID, on the front page pretty much of every single newspaper is climate change.
Yeah.
On the second page of every newspaper is plastic free. So it's so much easier. And we've decided to focus on just 4 projects because it's easier to make change and make a difference just by focusing all of our energies on the 4 projects. But the one that I wanted to mention, because I don't want to go on too much and you can tell how passionate I am, is one of the things is also something called the Sustainability Observatory, where we work with the local university to have the facts, to know how good or bad our scenario is. So the water table, how many of the houses are using solar energy, the quality of the water, recycling. So we actually know how good or how bad, and then we use that to get into the press and to lobby local government. So that's just the one of the 4 that I wanted to leave, because it's so important.
It is very important. And as you said, I think we all that are actors in this sector, we came to realize already many years ago that by doing what we are doing, if we are not careful, we not only destroy the nature, but we destroy our own business, Serena, I think that everybody will agree that there was a lot of passion that was infused through your talk. And knowing you, I know that everything that you said, it's exactly what you live and breathe on a daily basis. There's a lady that is always on the go. She's always doing something and always very attentive. And it's a pleasure having you here with us. And now we still have a few minutes, maybe. So if we have questions around by the audience, I'm sure Serena will be more than glad to answer, even in Spanish if needed, no problem. So if there's any question, this is the time. Or if anybody wants to book a trip to Ibiza, we can also take booking.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. Any questions?
So no questions there, guys, about Ibiza, about, Serena's business that is deliciously sorted. I love the name.
The name is really beautiful. And now that we know the secret, it makes a bit more sense. Yeah.
Here.
Serena, hi, nice to meet you.
And you too.
I'm dying to know. It's not an intelligent question, but I don't care. And I just really want to know the most bizarre thing or outrageous thing you've been asked to organize for, I'm assuming, a rich and famous client.
The most outrageous, which I actually said no to, was a client the theme of his party was Cirque du Freak, like Freak Circus. And he wanted dancing bears, which are obviously illegal.
Totally.
And he wanted tiger cubs. And I was just like, no.
You wanted what?
Tiger cubs, tigers.
Oh, tiger.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
dancing bears, which are now illegal, but they do exist in God knows where. And I was just like, no, I was like, the entertainment that we have created for you, because you obviously never kind of know, but it was just like, no with direction, you know? We've got this, and you won't need that. But I was like, I was really horrified. So that was a no. And then outrageous things are just like, 1 year, I mean, they're kind of not outrageous, but they're just like a bit like 1 year of the World Cup, a client wanted a screen set up by the pool so he could watch the football, fine. But obviously to see the screen needs shade, and he wanted to watch the match from his Lilo in the pool, right?
I love him already, yeah.
Yeah. So working out the pool technicals, how to keep that shaded, how they were going to build that, things like that.
It's great priorities. Yeah.
Great priorities.
Great priorities.
And hysterical luggage goes missing, and the runners, we have runners who need to go and find this, buy this, shop, drop this, being sent to Ibiza town to buy his Calvin Klein underwear because he didn't have any to wear, and he was very kind of like definite that they needed to be Calvin Klein, which is it's hilarious. I mean, hilarious things like that. Guitars at 2 a.m. They call 24-hour line and they want a guitar at 2 a.m. Like, things like that.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you very much. I loved your chat with Massimo. I've never been to Ibiza and dying to go. So hopefully one day soon.
You should come. We'll look after you. We'll make sure we have the most amazing experience ever.
I don't doubt it.
Definitely, Piers. Looking forward to it. Yeah, as Serena said, I think, it's very funny because clearly dealing with clients that most of the time they already have everything in their life, or they pretend that they do have everything in their life. They believe that then we can do magic, because it's also part of this sort of dream that we sell, that we make things happen, and then sometimes you do have the weird one that you say, oh God, I thought I already gone through the worst, but this is it.
I guess they put the spice there.
Exactly. Yeah. It also pushes us, because then we become every time more creative, we become every time more resourceful. It's got to do with contacts, and I'm sure that Serena has all the contacts, because that's what you need, and this is your connection with the local community, with the suppliers, with the partners that you're dealing with, that makes things possible,
Yeah, but you also, I definitely think you have to establish boundaries.
There is a limit, yes. Yeah.
Because when they think that they're taking your package and they're paying however much per week, and they're like on the phone, this request, like it's just like insane watching the team's phone, like on WhatsApp, and then their PA is emailing about something, and the PA is in New York and they're in Ibiza and they're WhatsApping, and like I remember when it was still me kind of on the ground, and I was looking after these clients. Of course, they also become friends, and I was just like, I was speaking to one of them, and I was like, 3 of you trying to call me at the same time. Like, and you are all in the same house,
Get
right?
organized. Get organized.
Yeah. One of you is just waking up,
Yeah.
one of you is in the pool, and one of you is in the gym, and all calling me. So even with the kind of highest package, we're like, one person does the direction within the villa, having the experience, plus their PA, but no more than that. It's just like the WhatsApp, this is just like insane. And then the other thing, because I do think it's important to say, and it's interesting, is with these clients, and a lot of them, because they are so successful to have achieved this wealth, are a certain type of character, right? They're dominating characters, and they lead a life, and then they arrive in Ibiza, and they're still like, you know. And teaching my team, especially when new, you have to kind of assess the type of client that they are, but you also, if it is that quite dominating client, you slightly have to use a tone which is like I can handle you. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's what I say to my team is like, just think that you're their school mistress. Do you know what I mean? Because the ones who are like, it's like, we will get you your table at Leo. You are
Do they not have to pay extra for that, Serena?
But it's just like we are going to get you that table. You're here a week. You're going to have the most amazing time, but just like relax. You're not closing a deal. We are going to give you a dream holiday. You know what I mean? But just like a bit kind of simmer down. Do you know what I mean? Like,
a lot has to do of the fact that people, when they come, particularly if they come from like an urban environment and they arrive in places like this, they have a feeling that everything is too slow compared to their pace. And then actually they understand after 48 hours, you know, that I worked in Tahiti, and I remember my statistics were first day complaints, second day it's fine, third day they love it, you know. So I just need to make sure that they stay at least 3 days, you know, because otherwise you'll only get the complaints, because suddenly you ask for something and the person that is giving it to you is living in a complete different world with them, with different views, and they can, but Serena is absolutely right. I think there is a little boundary that needs to be there, you know. So, any other question? Anybody else has a question or something to share with Serena? No? Okay. Well, Serena, once again, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
I'm sure you need to pack to come back tomorrow. Hopefully the airline is going to bring you back home.
Oh my God. I have so much stuff.
Yeah, okay. That's why. I'm sure you have to pack. We'll see you very soon here in Ibiza, and hopefully we'll see all of you here in Ibiza very soon.
Oh,
yes.
Absolutely.
Thank you once again for joining.
Yeah, thank you so much. What a pleasure to see you again. I enjoyed our lunch so much.
Diana.
Have a great weekend, and we'll meet again next week. We will continue with our program with Club Porteño Provoca. Thank you for your support.
Yes,
bye,
thank you so much, everybody, for joining us.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thank you, Serena. Ciao, Serena.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye, everybody. Gracias, Ali. Gracias, Hernán. Bye, bye.